This is ridiculous. You did this because she's your ex. The evaluation documents were reviewed independently by board members.
Rain hammered the city like it was trying to wash away every lie hidden beneath its glittering skyline. Luxury cars crawled toward the entrance of the Grand Meridian Hotel, where the nation's most influential business leaders had gathered for the annual Global Investment Summit. Camera flashes lit up the rainy evening as billionaires, politicians, and CEOs stepped onto the crimson carpet, smiling for headlines that would shape tomorrow's financial markets. A faded blue taxi rolled quietly to a stop. The driver hurried around to open the rear door. Out stepped Zaria Whitmore. She wore a simple royal blue dress, elegant, modest, and perfectly pressed, with a neatly folded black umbrella shielding her from the rain. Her handbag looked several years old, and her shoes carried no famous designer logo. To anyone watching, she appeared to be an ordinary assistant arriving at the wrong event. No one noticed the quiet confidence in her eyes. Not yet. Across the driveway, another convoy arrived. A gleaming black limousine stopped beneath the hotel canopy. The staff immediately straightened. Mr. Damien Ashcroft has arrived. Photographers rushed toward him. Damien Ashcroft, founder of Ashcroft Global and one of the youngest self-made billionaires in America, stepped out wearing a perfectly tailored charcoal suit. His sharp features, confident stride, and cold expression commanded attention before he spoke a single word. Then his eyes landed on her. He froze. "Zaria?" She turned. For several long seconds, neither of them spoke. 5 years disappeared into silence. 5 years since he walked away. 5 years since he convinced himself she wasn't ambitious enough for the future he wanted. 5 years since he chose a richer woman whose family promised to expand his empire. Back then, he believed love was a distraction. Now fate had placed Zaria directly in front of him. Damien let out a quiet laugh. "I almost didn't recognize you." His eyes traveled over her modest clothes. "So, life didn't exactly go according to plan?" Zaria offered a calm smile. "I'm exactly where I need to be." He chuckled. "I heard that little consulting business of yours collapsed." She simply nodded. People had always believed rumors before they bothered looking for the truth. Before either of them could say another word, a speeding luxury SUV cut across the hotel entrance. Its tires sliced through a massive puddle. A wave of muddy water exploded across the pavement. The splash drenched Zaria from shoulder to knee. Her beautiful blue dress was ruined instantly. Guests gasped. Several people whispered. Someone laughed. Damien looked at her stained clothes. Instead of offering help, he smirked. "I guess life has a way of reminding people where they belong." The words struck harder than the mud itself. Zaria slowly brushed the dirty water from her sleeve. She looked directly into his eyes. No anger, no humiliation, only quiet disappointment. That expression unsettled Damien far more than tears ever could. She spoke just one sentence. "I hope you still believe that before tonight is over." Then she walked into the hotel. Damien watched her disappear into the crowd. Something about her confidence bothered him. His assistant leaned closer. "Should I ask security to remove her? She doesn't look like she belongs here." Damien adjusted his cufflinks. "No," he smiled coldly. "This summit is invitation only. If she's pretending to belong, someone else will embarrass her before the evening ends." Neither man noticed the discreet silver credential hidden beneath Zaria's mud-stained shawl. A credential no ordinary guest could ever obtain. Inside the ballroom, crystal chandeliers illuminated hundreds of elegantly decorated tables. Business leaders from around the world exchanged greetings while waiters moved silently between them. Massive digital displays announced the evening's biggest event, $10 billion infrastructure partnership final approval tonight. Every executive in the room wanted the contract. Winning it would redefine a company's future. Losing it could destroy years of work. Damien confidently greeted investors. Everyone expected Ashcroft Global to secure the deal. After months of preparation, failure seemed impossible. Meanwhile, Zaria quietly entered a restricted hallway marked, "Authorized personnel only." The security guard immediately stood at attention. "Good evening, ma'am." He unlocked the doors without hesitation. Inside, several senior executives were already waiting. The room fell completely silent. An elderly chairman rose from his seat. "We've been expecting you." One by one, every executive stood. Not out of courtesy, out of respect. The chairman smiled warmly before extending his hand. "We cannot finalize the $10 billion partnership until the chair of the International Investment Review Board arrives." He paused. "Welcome, Chairwoman Zaria Whitmore." Outside those closed doors, Damien Ashcroft laughed confidently with reporters. Inside, the woman he had just humiliated was preparing to decide the future of his company. And before the night ended, he would learn that the mud splashed onto her dress had already begun staining his own destiny. The private conference room overlooked the glittering skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. Inside, silence carried more weight than the noise of the ballroom below. Chairwoman Zaria Whitmore took her seat at the head of the polished walnut table. Around her sat 12 of the world's most influential investment directors. Men and women who controlled projects worth hundreds of billions of dollars waited patiently for her first words. One director slid a thick folder across the table. "These are the final evaluations." Zaria opened it without haste. Inside were detailed reports on the 5 companies competing for the $10 billion infrastructure partnership. Ashcroft Global ranked first in projected profit, second in technical expertise, first in construction speed. Everything suggested Damien Ashcroft should win, but one section caught her attention: corporate ethics assessment. She quietly read every page. Her expression never changed. The room watched her carefully. Everyone knew one truth about Chairwoman Whitmore. She never made decisions based solely on numbers. She believed character was the greatest investment. And tonight, character would matter more than anyone expected. Meanwhile, downstairs, Damien stood confidently beside his executive team. Champagne glasses clinked around him as investors congratulated him before the decision had even been announced. "It's already yours," one executive laughed. "No company comes close." Damien smiled modestly. "We'll celebrate after it's official." His chief financial officer leaned closer. "The board has never rejected the highest performing bidder." Damien nodded. "I know." He had spent 3 years preparing for this moment. Winning the contract would double Ashcroft Global's value overnight. Failure wasn't part of his future, or so he believed. Across the ballroom, a young waitress accidentally bumped into an elderly janitor carrying cleaning supplies. The old man's bucket tipped over. Water spread across the marble floor. Several guests stepped aside with disgust. One businessman muttered loudly, "These people should work after the event, not during it." The janitor immediately apologized. His hands trembled. Before anyone else reacted, Zaria emerged from the restricted hallway. She had changed into another elegant blue dress provided by the hotel. Without saying a word, she knelt beside the elderly man. "It's all right." She picked up the fallen mop, then helped him gather every cleaning cloth scattered across the floor. The ballroom grew unusually quiet. Several executives exchanged confused glances. Why would someone with access to the executive floor help a janitor? The elderly man's eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, miss." She smiled warmly. "My father spent 28 years as a maintenance worker. He taught me something I'll never forget. No honest job makes a person small." Only then did she stand, without waiting for applause. Without caring who had seen, she simply continued walking. From across the room, Damien watched everything. Something about that moment unsettled him. His assistant frowned. "Interesting woman." Damien looked away. "She's trying too hard." But the confidence in his voice wasn't as convincing as before. Not far away, someone else had been watching. Vivian Cross, Damien's glamorous fiancée. She wore an expensive emerald gown and enough diamonds to attract every camera in the room. She linked her arm through Damien's. Who was that woman? No one. Vivian looked again. She doesn't seem like no one. Damien forced a smile. My ex. Vivian laughed. The one you said had no ambition? That's her. Vivian studied Zaria from a distance, then smiled. Good. I'd hate for your past to become your future. Neither of them noticed an elderly gentleman quietly greeting Zaria near the orchestra stage. He bowed his head respectfully before shaking her hand. The chairman of the National Development Council. One of the most powerful men in the country. Vivian blinked. Why is Chairman Douglas talking to her? Damien looked over. His smile disappeared. The chairman wasn't merely greeting Zaria. He was listening while she spoke, almost as though she outranked him. Before Damien could process what he was seeing, the ballroom lights dimmed. A spotlight illuminated the main stage. The master of ceremonies stepped forward. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we announce the recipient of the $10 billion National Infrastructure Partnership. Applause filled the room. Damien adjusted his tie. His heartbeat remained steady. This was the moment he had imagined for years. The host continued. But before the announcement, our review board requested one final executive interview with each company's CEO. Whispers rippled through the ballroom. A final interview? That wasn't on the schedule. Damien frowned. His legal advisor looked equally confused. No one mentioned another evaluation. Across the room, Zaria remained perfectly calm, as if she had expected this all along. The host smiled. Each interview will determine the final recommendation. Damien's confidence slipped for the first time that evening. He had prepared for financial questions, engineering questions, economic projections. But a surprise interview? No one knew what the board intended to ask. One by one, the competing CEOs entered a private interview suite. Each emerged looking thoughtful, some relieved, others shaken. Finally, an assistant approached Damien. Mr. Ashcroft, they're ready for you. He straightened his jacket and walked toward the conference room. Vivian squeezed his hand. You've already won. He smiled. I know. The heavy wooden doors opened. Damien stepped inside. The room was lined with directors seated around a long, polished table. At the center sat the chairperson. Her back faced the entrance. The assistant quietly closed the doors behind him. The chair slowly turned around. Damien's confidence vanished. His face drained of color. There, presiding over the meeting that would decide the biggest contract of his career, sat Chairwoman Zaria Whitmore. She met his stunned gaze with complete composure. No smile, no anger, no triumph, just quiet authority. Then she spoke the words that made every director look toward him. Mr. Ashcroft, before we discuss your company's future, I'd like to ask you one simple question. She paused, just long enough for the silence to become unbearable. Tell this board, how do you measure the value of a person? The question hung in the air like thunder before a storm. No one moved. No one even reached for a glass of water. Damien Ashcroft had negotiated billion-dollar mergers, survived hostile takeovers, and stood before government committees without breaking a sweat. Yet one simple question from the woman he had humiliated only an hour earlier left him searching for words. He forced a smile. I measure a person's value by integrity, competence, and the impact they create. Around the table, several directors quietly took notes. Zaria folded her hands. A thoughtful answer. She opened a leather folder. But does your behavior match your philosophy? Damien's smile faded. She pressed a button on the conference table. A large screen behind her came to life. Security footage appeared. The room watched in silence as the recording showed the hotel entrance from earlier that evening. There was Damien stepping from his limousine. There was Zaria standing beneath her umbrella. Then the SUV rushed through the puddle. Mud splashed across her dress. Several guests gasped on the recording. The video had no sound, but another camera angle did. His own voice echoed through the room. I guess life has a way of reminding people where they belong. Silence. One director slowly removed his glasses. Another leaned back with a disappointed sigh. Damien felt every eye in the room settle on him. He cleared his throat. It was a misunderstanding. Zaria didn't interrupt. She simply played another clip. This time it showed the elderly janitor dropping his cleaning supplies. The footage captured Zarya kneeling to help him while dozens of executives walked past without stopping. Then another camera angle appeared. It showed Damien watching, and walking away. The screen went black. Zarya looked directly at him. This partnership isn't simply about engineering. It requires cooperation with communities, workers, governments, and thousands of ordinary people. She paused. If you cannot respect one person, how will you respect 10,000? No one spoke. Damien felt his confidence slipping away. For the first time in years, no amount of wealth could buy the right answer. One director broke the silence. Mr. Ashcroft, did you know Chairwoman Whitmore before tonight? Damien hesitated. Yes. Were you once in a personal relationship? Yes. And did that relationship influence your behavior this evening? His mouth opened, then closed again. Every possible answer sounded worse than the last. Finally, he lowered his head. Yes. The admission landed heavily across the room. Another director spoke. Our review board investigates leadership, not perfection. We understand mistakes. What concerns us is whether leaders recognize them. Damien looked toward Zarya. For the first time all evening, the billionaire who intimidated boardrooms around the world looked genuinely uncertain. I'm sorry. The words sounded unfamiliar, almost painful. I judged you. I assumed your appearance reflected your success. I believed rumors instead of truth. I was wrong. The room remained quiet. Zarya studied him for several long seconds. She wasn't looking for polished words. She was looking for sincerity. Then she asked one final question. If you had never walked into this room, if you still believed I was an ordinary guest, would you be apologizing now? The silence answered before Damien could. His shoulders slowly dropped. No, he couldn't lie anymore. I probably wouldn't. Several directors nodded. Not because they admired his answer, but because honesty had finally replaced pride. Chairman Douglas closed his notebook. Thank you. That's the first completely truthful statement you've made tonight. The interview ended. Damien quietly left the room. The heavy doors closed behind him. Outside, Vivian rushed toward him. Well? He looked exhausted. I don't know. Her smile disappeared. What do you mean you don't know? He glanced back at the closed conference room doors. She's the chairwoman. Vivian frowned. Who? Zarya. The color drained from Vivian's face. That's impossible. It isn't. Before she could respond, the ballroom lights dimmed again. The master of ceremonies returned to the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, the International Investment Review Board has reached its decision. The room became perfectly still. Executives held their breath. Reporters raised their cameras. The chairman stepped to the microphone. This year's evaluation considered financial strength, innovation, technical excellence, and leadership. A giant screen displayed the names of the 5 finalist companies. One by one. 4 names faded away. Only 2 remained. Ashcroft Global, Horizon Civic Partners. The chairman continued. The financial difference between these 2 proposals was remarkably small. Whispers spread through the audience. Damien stared at the screen. Vivian squeezed his arm. You've got this. The chairman smiled. The deciding factor was leadership character. A pause. Long enough to make every heartbeat louder. The $10 billion National Infrastructure Partnership is awarded to Horizon Civic Partners. The ballroom erupted. Some applauded. Others gasped. Damien stood frozen. 3 years of preparation, gone in a single sentence. Across the room, Horizon's CEO looked completely stunned before walking to the stage. As reporters surrounded the winner, Damien remained motionless. He finally understood. The contract hadn't been lost because another company was richer. It had been lost because another company had earned the board's trust. Vivian's frustration exploded. This is
This
ridiculous.
is ridiculous.
She did
You
this
did
because
this
she's
because
your
she's
ex. Several reporters immediately turned toward her. Zaria calmly approached.
The evaluation
Her voice remained
documents were
steady.
reviewed independently by
The
board
evaluation
members.
documents were reviewed independently by 12 board members. She handed Vivian a sealed report. You'll find every score, every vote, and every reason inside. No one person decides a contract worth $10 billion. Vivian opened the report. Each page confirmed the same conclusion. Ashcroft Global had received the highest technical score, the second highest financial score, but the lowest leadership and ethics score among the finalists. There was nothing to argue. The numbers spoke for themselves. Vivian quietly lowered the papers. Without another word, she walked away. The next morning, every major newspaper carried the same headline. Billion-dollar deal awarded after ethics review changes final decision. Business channels replayed the story for days. Experts debated whether leadership should carry more weight than profit. Public opinion overwhelmingly agreed with the board's decision. Within weeks, companies across the country introduced new leadership training and ethics standards. One unexpected moment had started a national conversation. Several months later, Damien stood outside a community center on the edge of the city. No cameras, no reporters, no luxury convoy. Only volunteers planting trees with neighborhood children. He quietly picked up a shovel and joined them, not because anyone was watching, because no one was. As he worked, someone handed him a bottle of water. He looked up. Zaria. She smiled politely. I heard you've been volunteering every weekend. He nodded. I've been trying to become the man I always claimed I was. She looked toward the children laughing nearby. Growth doesn't erase the past. No, but it can shape the future. For a moment, neither spoke. Finally, Damien extended his hand. Thank you. She shook it. Not as the woman he had once underestimated. Not as the chairwoman who rejected his company. But as someone who had reminded him that true wealth could never be measured by bank accounts, designer suits, or billion-dollar contracts. It was measured by the way a person treated those who could offer nothing in return. As Zaria walked away, the afternoon sunlight broke through the clouds. Damien watched her disappear into the crowd, knowing some opportunities never came back. Yet the lesson she left behind would stay with him for the rest of his life. Because the greatest deal he almost lost wasn't worth $10 billion. It was his own character. If this story moved you, let us know in the comments. Do you think Damien deserved a second chance? Or did he lose the best thing that ever happened to him the moment he judged Zaria? We'd love to hear your opinion. If you enjoy powerful stories of betrayal, redemption, hidden identities, and emotional justice, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next unforgettable story. Remember, never underestimate someone because of what they wear or where they stand today. Sometimes, the quietest person in the room is the one holding the power to change your future. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.